All right. Welcome again to the next presentation at the Wrestling Mindset Coaches Clinic. We have seen almost 30 coaches up to this point, and we're coming down to our last few. Really excited to have Mike Gray on today, the new head coach at Cornell, one of the youngest head coaches in the country. This is a guy that I watched compete just a couple years older than me when I was back in high school and in college, doing a tremendous job the last several years as a coach up there at Cornell as they've built a powerhouse program. Just as a reminder, as we close out the day, we're driving donations for Beat the Streets. Beat the Streets, for those of you that don't know, is a nonprofit organization that looks to bring wrestling to the inner cities that have so often not had a lot of programming for youth, middle school, and high school athletes. Places like Philadelphia, Chicago, Cleveland, LA, and New York City have been driving that mission for several years, helping thousands of kids across the country, and all the donations we get are going to be driven towards them. Joe DeSena, the CEO of Spartan that puts on the Spartan races, just donated $1,000 today. So we're thankful for that and thankful for all the other donations. So if you have that ability, please go to the website and donate to Beat the Streets so we can continue to support that mission. On top of that, a lot of coaches have different books that they've written, different programs that they support, or different causes that they are part of. This clinic is free for all that attend. The replays are free through Sunday. After that, they'll be hosted on CoachTube. We provide this content because we want to see the wrestling world grow. But if you could support the coaches or the presenters by buying a book or supporting the cause that they represent, we appreciate that, and that allows them to continue doing the good work that they do and be able to make a good living for themselves and their family. So without further ado, let's bring on Coach Gray to talk about the Cornell program that he just took over. So, Coach, welcome to the show.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Yeah, and I just saw recently you got a couple great coaches that you just recruited to start building out your staff. So tell us a little bit about who you guys are bringing on board and why you picked them as the next set of coaches for Cornell.
Yeah, so we have Donnie Vincent, who I actually coached with from 14 through 17 before he went to NC State. So he's coming on. He's going to be our associate head coach. And Donnie is just a great leader, obviously, amongst the guys. He has his own special brand of, humor, so to speak. And he's just a great guy to be around. His personality and I think his attitude is infectious, and it really, helps the guys and leads them. So really excited about Donnie, and I'm excited for him to jump in with our program. And I guess this is his second time here, right? And a lot of our seniors like Ben Armstead and Brendan Furman, they were recruited by Donnie. So they're excited to get this year with him and really kind of see how it is with him as a coach. Next, we have Kellen Russell. He's coming on as our assistant coach as well. I knew Kellen from when we were younger. We wrestled together in high school a good bit. I trained with him a lot at Blair. And, I can't think of a better guy who's, I would say, super well liked by everybody. I haven't heard anybody say a bad thing about him, right? So that speaks volumes to his character. And he's just great in the room, great with recruiting, just has a great outlook on life, and is very positive. It's something that I want to see. And I know, obviously we're on the wrestling mindset, right? So he's actually done a good bit with sports psychology and really focusing and getting himself ready to compete the best way possible. So he's going to do a lot of that for our program as well, which we're excited about. And then lastly, we have Nick Wisdowski. He's going to be our volunteer assistant coach. So he is going to continue to compete with Spartan Combat RTC, but he's also going to be our volunteer. That's kind of a void that we've had over the last couple of years is, a solid, heavyweight coach, somebody that can get in there and wrestle with them, right? And he's, all of 260 pounds, and he's, as we know, two-time national champ and, world medalist. So really excited to have him in the room. And once again, just a great guy who really is eager to begin his coaching career, is eager to learn more about leadership and continue to develop as a person. So that's really one of the big reasons why we were able to scoop him up.
Well, yeah, that's going to be a heck of a coaching staff for sure. Bringing on such like a pretty young group of coaches.
Yeah.
Is that something that you intentionally kind of tried to do, or is that something that just kind of you were looking for certain personality types and those individuals kind of fit those spots?
Yeah, no. So I knew that, I really enjoyed working with Donnie, and I really knew that he could do a great job kind of being a recruiting coordinator, so to speak. You know what I mean? So he fit the mold there. And then like Kellen, once again, I knew him. So I think more than anything, I just looked at personalities and guys that I got along with and guys that I knew would mesh well with myself and that we could all work well together. Because I understand that there's, some I guess strengths to be had when you have coaches that maybe have a little more experience and years on the job. But ultimately, I have confidence in, I guess, myself as a leader, and I have confidence in my direction and where I want this program to go. So I think the biggest thing for me was just bringing in guys that are going to, really put our guys first, and we can really build a tight connection amongst the coaching staff, and that will then, follow to the team, and we can just create that environment that we want. I think that was the biggest thing for me, creating a positive environment. You know what I mean? An environment where we're not necessarily negative very much at all. We're always just looking to improve upon certain things that we might have failed at, and also improve upon things that we've done well, and just continuing to grow. So really big time growth mindset guys. And that's really the guys I got, I believe.
No, I think they're all going to be excellent. And, obviously it speaks to, the reputation of Cornell wrestling and, your ability to gain trust and show a vision that attracts high level talent. And there's really no mold of what a perfect coach is, right? I think there's different ways to do it. And I think different personalities have built a lot of great programs and have created a lot of good wrestling. What are a few pieces of the culture at Cornell that are a little bit unique that you're really proud of being part of, and really, just proud of that aspect of the Cornell program?
No, I mean, I think the one thing that I'm super proud of is, obviously you talk about culture, but family, right? So my family is all in, right? My kids are at practice. My wife is, might as well be a team mom, right? So, and I don't know, I think, I mean, like I said, I've been at Cornell my whole life. So I just know that, my kids are like mascots for the team, and our guys love that. Right. And our guys are over my house all the time. And we're really, we're not talking about being a family. We are a family. Right. And we really dive into some challenging topics when the kids are over. You know what I mean? And we really just I really try to get to know them really, really well. So not just on an athlete coach type of relationship, but just, a man-to-man relationship, so to speak, and really dive in. So I think that's one thing that's really unique to our program. And then another thing that's really unique to our program is the fact that we encourage our guys. We encourage our guys to really kind of make it their own, make their wrestling their own. So, we don't do morning workouts, for instance, because we understand that our guys are going to be up late studying. So my goal as I guess a coach and as the leader of the program is to make myself available to our guys as much as possible. So for extra, conditioning workouts, extra, technique workouts, whatever it is, we really try to mold ourselves around our wrestlers in the sense of giving them what they need and just trying to never take from them. You know what I mean? Just try to build them up, try to give them every opportunity to succeed, whether it be in the classroom, whether it be socially, whether it be athletically, just trying to do everything we can to help them succeed. And if we have to be flexible, we're more than willing to do that. And I think that other programs, maybe there isn't that flexibility where it's this time, and that's when you got to be there. We're more than happy to get the work in, because ultimately you have to get the work in, right? If you want to be the best, you have to get the work in, you have to get the job done. But we're happy to be flexible and do whatever we can to make it, I guess, a bit easier on our guys in the sense of time management, and also sleep.
Yeah. Well, and obviously being an Ivy League school adds an extra level of difficulty. And, I was at UPenn, so I experienced it as an athlete. Both my younger brothers wrestled at the Naval Academy. It's obviously a different experience. Do you think part of your culture and your outlook on coaching and the way that you kind of plan your program, is that reflective of it being an Ivy League school and like the different requirements of the athletes?
Yeah, no, for sure. I mean, I think, and obviously you're a Penn and your brother's a Navy, so you kind of get it, right? I mean, realistically, our guys aren't going to be going to bed until midnight, I would say, at a, even if they do everything right, because you get out of practice late and it kind of is what it is, right? So, and then if we were going to do 6 a.m.ers, they'd be up early, be up at 5:30. So 5 hours of sleep compounded over months is probably not going to be the best thing for you. So, I think that our school, right, and our academics kind of steer us that way for sure. But I know that, like, Rob used to do it, the 6 a.m. way, and he learned, right? So I think there's a lot of anecdotal experience there and evidence, I should say, from Rob and previous, teams that show that us making the change and really just requiring more out of the coaching staff, but getting more out of the guys is the way to go. Right. And I think that obviously our institution requires us to do that. But at this point now, even if it really doesn't matter what major certain guys are, even if they're in a major that might not be as challenging as others, they're still taking this plan and we're still doing whatever we can to prioritize them and be flexible so they can maximize their potential. Because that's ultimately my goal. And it's something that I've, especially in this last month, right, wake up every day and what's my goal? My goal is to maximize my guys' potential, whether it be, post graduation, with jobs, summer internships, summer wrestling training, academics, whatever it is. My job is just to maximize their potential and give them every opportunity to reach their goals.
Yeah, no, and that's great. And I think, we've had a lot of different coaches on, and it seems like in the last couple decades, there's been a transition from maybe an older style of wrestling at the highest levels, where it was just mostly focused on wrestling, and really been, there's so many coaches now that approach the full athlete, and especially at, an institution like Cornell with, strenuous academics, I think that's really necessary to create lots of success. Now, you obviously were coached by Rob Cole. You coached with him for several years. Do you find that your styles are pretty similar, or do you think that there's, some major differences, or, talk to me just a little bit about your philosophies and how similar they are, how different?
No, I think, obviously the program is doing well, right? And Rob did a fantastic job. So I don't want to reinvent the wheel. For me, it's just making small changes, but also having focuses in different areas than him. Right. There's some things that he did really well that, that I need to make sure I focus on. And there's certain things that Rob didn't do very well that I naturally do well. Right. So for me, it's just shifting the focus to maybe some of the areas that I haven't done well in the past, or I haven't had the ability or had, I guess, the need to do those things, where now I have to do them, and I'm, eager to do that. And I've kind of in the last month jumped into those roles and kind of haven't missed a beat with that. But that's part of me, I guess, bringing in the staff as well, right? Finding guys that can fit all these pieces, so we just have a well-rounded, product, so to speak. So I think, but back to the question, I think that I think we're pretty similar. I think the things that we understand to be important are pretty similar, right? We have to fundraise really well because, in a place like Cornell and, UPenn, obviously some Ivy League institutions, you got to raise both your budgets, right? So it's not just where football or basketball is kind of helping you get to where you need to be on your university side, and then you fundraise your RTC side. We have to fundraise both. So that's really important to make sure that that's, a premium with your program. And that's something that Rob has done very well, obviously. And I have the luxury of being at Cornell for 15 years, right? So granted, I might not have been out there, closing the deal. These people, and our alumni know me well, and it makes for an easy ask, so to speak, right?
No,
so something like that. That's an example of somewhere that, I need to shift a bit more into that role. But I think that's pretty common with the head coach, right? And then, on the wrestling side of it, I think that we're pretty good there, because that was something that I always excelled at, and something that I, felt confident in, and I feel confident in our system and our training system and things like that. So if anything, we'll just continue to add with that and continue to take different drills or skills or whatever it might be that Kel and Donnie and Nick have to add as well. And then, on the fundraising and the academics and the admissions and all that side of things, just for me to continue to grow in those roles. So,
yeah, well, and that's got to be exciting for you. I mean, growth and opportunities to grow, I think for all of us is what keeps us into it. It's why so many of us got into wrestling early. Is one of the things I fell in love with is that moment, that move that you've been working on for so long finally clicks, that little light bulb moment.
Yeah, for sure.
So it's going to be a cool opportunity for you to develop yourself as a leader. It's one of the reasons that we try to put on these type of events is, for us, it's just a way for us to provide a lot of good opportunities and like a lot of great content for other coaches and try to help them facilitate that growth within themselves. I hope that as many coaches as possible jump on and check out this content, and that's going to keep our sport growing, whether it's at the youth, middle school, or high school level. Now, I think one of the other things that's interesting is Cornell seems to produce athletes that are unique in their wrestling, right? Yeah. Like I think about some of like guys like a Ruja or Darmstadt or Kyle Dake versus like a Gabe Dean or a Max Dean. And like, there's some schools that seem to have sort of a style. Yeah. And then Cornell has produced wrestlers that don't really have one set trend of what makes them good or what they do technically. Yeah. Is that something that you guys do through like recruiting and you're looking for that specifically, or is that a creation from the way that you train your athletes?
I mean, I think it's a little bit of both. I think that, we're looking for kids that are super talented and are good students, right? And I think we kind of happen to get some unique guys, right? And then with that, and I think it also plays back to our culture as well. I think that we have a quirky bunch for sure, right? We have a quirky bunch, and Kyle, Yanni, Vito, they're Darmstadt, right? They're great kids, but they're quirky as well. So I think that works out well for them. But on the wrestling side of it, like my goal has always been, and I think the program's goal is to never, retract, always, add. So for us, it's always whatever you come to Cornell with, let's keep that. And then let's just add on to that. Right. Whereas certain programs, like you said, you come in and it might not be the coach forcing you to do it. It might just be the guys in the room, right? To be able to withstand whatever's happening to you, you have to start to wrestle a certain way, right? You got to start banging on the head or whatever it might be, right? So I think that the one thing that we do is we look to add, and we never look to, I guess, change styles too much. And the other thing is we have such a wide array of kids in the room, right? Because when you're at a program where a certain style starts to take over, everybody in that room is wrestling that style, right? So you don't necessarily get a chance to wrestle a different type of style. Whereas in our room, we have a bunch of different kids that wrestle a bunch of different ways. And with that, it allows for Darmstadt to develop his assassin. It allows for Yanni to, work on jumping over the top when he should be working on sprawling, right? It allows for, Kyle to, attack the waist and things like that. So they're getting different looks from different positions that allow them to explore their style and really try to kind of make it like an art form, honestly. And that's kind of our view on it. That's really what we're trying to do, is just try to develop certain skills that other people don't necessarily do, and exploit the opportunities from there.
I think that's insightful, and a lot of them have very fun styles. Love to watch them wrestle, and I can't even believe I forgot Yanni in my list of guys that wrestle a little differently. But it just speaks to how many talented athletes that you have there that obviously have worked really hard on developing themselves. So it's not just athleticism, but it is a system. It is a knowledge and a plan. I kind of think back to Ben Askren, who really brought a lot of funk into the front of the sport. And for the first time, it was kind of developed as far as a plan of he knew what he was doing before other people. And that's where he kind of a lot of people with it.
And that's where people, I guess, miss it sometimes because, you know, they just think that they're scrambling around, but Ben had a system. You know what I mean? He had a system. You know, when Kyle's moving, you know, especially nowadays, right? He has a system to that. He's not just out there bobbing and weaving, right? There's a method to his madness. And even Yanni, right? Like, obviously, preferably as a coach, you want people off his legs. But when somebody's on his legs, he has a system, right? And the system actually started from Askren. So the point being is that, yeah, it does come back to a system, right? And I will say the one thing that kind of helps our guys continue to, let's say, expand their own system and develop their own styles is, and you know, you're in a wrestling room, right? When certain guys start to do certain things often, other guys want to do that too, right? And it just develops this group, right? This group growth of trying to hit assassins or trying to, you know, jump over the top like Yanni, whatever it is. And the guys are having fun and they're developing new skills and it's entertaining for the fans. It's entertaining for them. And it just leads to overall growth within the room as opposed to just, I wouldn't say the boring stuff, but because that stuff has to be in there, but it also leads to just a more exciting wrestling room.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, wrestling's meant to be a sport of action. And
yeah.
Well, talk to me a little bit about this. You know, one of the things that one of our mindset principles is aggressive and relentless, right? Which is obviously favoring offense over defense as far as like a stylistic piece. Do you think when athletes go out there trying to score lots of points, there is a mental component that develops when they have that style that allows them to grow in their success and continue to maybe expand their ability to be successful at higher levels?
I do. And I think, I mean, I guess inverse, if you look at Yanni, I mean, obviously him and Jordan had a great match, right? But I think that the one thing that you could see from Yanni is that in that last minute and 30, he sat back, right? And in the first portion of it, I think he sat back a lot of the matches at the trials just in general. But if you look at him in Poland, right, he went out there and it was just like, I'm just going to shoot and I'm just going to be aggressive. And it worked out as well. It worked out, you know, for him in his favor. So, no, I think it's all about repetition, right? So when you're in the room and you're, you know, and your heart's on fire and you're exhausted, but you continue to keep grinding and trying to score and stay on the offense, I think it does, you know, it builds your mind and it makes you strong. And it's really important. It's really, really important because once you get to the, you know, the pinnacle of the sport, you need to fall back on that. And for Yanni, for instance, he wasn't able to fall back on it. So he needed more of that, I feel like, you know, going into the trial. So I think it is really important. And I think you can, you know, coach yourself into it. And I guess your coaches can help you work through those, we'll say, you know, barriers at times when you're sitting back too much. Whereas like I personally shot too much. Like the times I lost, I shot too much, but at least I was like, yeah, you know, I shot, right? So I'm on the side of things where attacking is really good. If you can reel it in a bit and take really good attacks, that's going to be great. But I'm all for, instead of taking a bad shot, going into a hard fake, right? But what are you doing? You're still being aggressive. You're still bringing the wrestling to your opponent and forcing him to be on the defense, right? You're still being aggressive, right? Yes. Make him react to you, right? Make him react to you. One of the things that I talk to my guys about in the first 30 seconds, even if you're not going to pull the trigger, work yourself into the match by moving your feet and faking and having a strong hand fight, right? Because that's going to put you in the driver's seat for the match. You're going to be leading the dance. And when you're leading the dance, then it's hard for your opponent to deal with you. And that's what the best guys are doing, right? Whether they're faking, keeping you off balance, whatever it is, but there's different types of aggression, but there has to be aggression, I feel.
Yeah, no, I would agree with that. I mean, I think it's easier to pull back from, hey, you're taking a few too many shots. Maybe some of them aren't as wise as they could be versus, hey, try to turn that on.
Yes, I agree.
On switch.
Yeah. Because when you're going, the switch is on, right? You can flip the switch, right? But when you do it inversely, it's challenging. A lot of when somebody doesn't shoot and they just never shoot and they look for reattacks constantly, if the guy doesn't shoot, how are you going to score? Right? Especially in freestyle, you can push that out of bounds. All right, you're down 1-0 now. And if you're not going to shoot, then it's going to be challenging for you, right? Yeah. But I think that, no, I would agree with you that it's easier to learn to pull back a bit when you shoot too much as opposed to not shooting at all, right? Because there's vulnerability there, right? There's vulnerability there when you shoot, and being able to, I guess, conquer that and be okay with that, it's really important, right? And it's a mental hurdle to get over, being able to shoot and just letting it rip and competing, as opposed to sitting back and letting the match come to you and letting the guy dictate for you. So there's definitely, there's a big role in, I guess, I wouldn't even say match strategy. I'd say match preparation in that regard, being offensive and attacking.
All right. Well, I agree with you on that one. So one of the other things that, we work with a lot of athletes on, obviously pressure is something that a lot of athletes struggle with at some point in their career, even at top levels. I know I've heard Kyle Dake say things like, pressure doesn't exist. It's basically created by us, which I think is an ideal for people to strive for.
Yeah.
You were the first 4-timer from New Jersey. Kyle Dake, first guy to win 4 titles at 4 different weights. Yanni's obviously had an incredible career so far. You got a lot of wrestlers that seem, including yourself, that just seem to not let pressure get in the way of them competing their best. What are some tips you would have or strategies that you guys utilize to try to help your athletes just wrestle great, at a national tournament, at a state tournament, maybe in one of these spots where people are talking about it as a historical moment?
Yeah, no, I think for us, it's all about positive affirmation, right? So before going on the mat, like, you're the man, this is your time. You know what I mean? You can do this. So for me as a coach, that's what I'm doing. Every minute or so, just, whether it be Yanni, Vito, whoever it is, comes over, gets water, you're ready to go, you're the man. So positive affirmations is really big to make sure that the athlete can feel confident going out on the mat. And then for me, it was routine. So even if I went out of bounds or I got taken down, just get back to the middle. And my big thing was stay offensive, right? So that was my cue. That was my mental cue. So I always had a mental cue to bring me back to focus. So even if I got out, I got taken down or whatever happened, out of bounds there, I'd tap myself and say, stay on the offense, right? That was my mental cue to get back to it. So that was really important for me. So I guess routine, and then if you get taken out of your routine, have a cue to bring yourself back to your focus point. So then you can, keep your mind clear. And then the other thing for me that I preach in our wrestling room all the time is having an active mind. When you're training, have an active mind. So if you're just kind of, asleep at the wheel when you're training and you're just going hard, and that's good and all, but I'd rather have you, be active and understand what you're doing. So then when you're in these matches, the same thing can happen, right? So you can have an active mind. Because a lot of times, like the thing that I see the biggest struggle is, and I call it nervous fatigue, right? Because guys are nervous, right? They feel the pressure. Once the whistle blows, most people just wrestle, I would say, right? And they let wrestling take over, but they're starting on their tanks at 60%.
Yeah.
Right? Their tanks at 60%. So their match strategy might be fine and everything, like could be wrestling. They could be wrestling well, but they end up losing because they get tired, right? And why are they getting tired? Not because they're not training hard enough. You need to do more sprints, blah, blah, blah. You hear from parents, right? No, I think it's just the ability to keep your mind clear and not wear yourself down before you go out. So I'll have my guys, if I have a kid that's a pacer, I tell him he can't get up until he's on deck. Right? He can't get up until he's on deck. Listen to an ebook or whatever, right? Don't listen to music that's going to have your heart rate 180, right? So I try to have my guys listen to something that is pretty chill and relaxing. And then once it's time, when they're on deck, then they can get themselves jacked up and go wrestle, right? Some people don't do it. They're like Kyle doesn't listen to music or anything. Vito doesn't. Yanni really doesn't. I'm trying to think.
Sounds like you're recommending not listening to music with that list.
Yeah, I might. I don't know. I think I personally did though. But I would listen to country. Right? I would listen to country and then I'd listen to like a little Linkin Park before I went on that, and that was that. right? Just a
We
little bit.
must be the same generation because I was going
Yeah.
Johnny Cash and then I was going like Disturbed, Linkin Park.
Yeah, right. Just before you go on the mat, get yourself fired up a little bit and then go out there, right? But just staying calm. So I think the big thing for me is during the match, routine and a cue to bring yourself back to focus. Before the match, right? And I do this a lot with, I would say younger athletes, but college guys aren't that young, right? But especially middle school, high school, maybe some college guys too, before they get their routine down. If they're pacers and they start warming up, 4 matches before it's time to go, sit them down. Like, now you got to sit down. You know what I mean? Develop a routine while you're sitting. Listen to some relaxing music if you listen to music, and then get yourself jacked up. Yeah, and then from the coach's point of view, just positive affirmations all the time, letting your athlete know that he or she is ready to roll, and time for the training to pay off, all those types of things to just really try to build your athlete up before they go out there.
Yeah, no, and I love it because it's clear that when you went to wrestle, you had put thought into how you prepared before a match, how you were going to how you were prepared in case something went wrong and you needed to reset yourself, what your plan was, how you wanted to wrestle, and I think sometimes we think about preparation just as in the physical elements, but there's a lot of mental pieces that if you take the time to do beforehand, you can be very effective. I was actually reading Harry Potter before matches when I was younger. I was really into reading, which, big surprise, ended up a pen, right?
Yeah.
But I think some of that prep before is important to see. And, going back to a point you made earlier about, Yanni's Olympic trials, I think it's really powerful for younger wrestlers to see that even these guys that are so good, Yanni's proven he can beat anybody in the world on his good days, right?
Absolutely, yeah.
They're not always at their best. And I think that makes it easier for athletes to realize that those guys are humans too. They're still looking to improve and get better. And they're not perfect. I think when I was talking to Steiner about, we pursue perfection, but we know we're never really going to get there, but it's the pursuit that is what we're after.
Well, yeah, that's the journey, right? We talk about the journey a lot, but that's the truth. I think, trying to get, and it goes back to what I always talk about, right? We're trying to maximize our potential. How far can we go? How close to that perfection can we get? Are we going to get there? No, right? And by definition, nobody's perfect, right? So, but trying to get as close to that as possible, that's what this whole thing is about. That's what the training's about. That's what, the mental training's about. All of it, right? That's what, college wrestling, the academics, the athletics, everything is just trying to become the best version of yourself at the end of the day. And then I think it speaks volumes what you're saying with Yanni. Yeah. He's one of the best guys in the world, right? And any given day, he could be a world champion. But he, too, had an off day, and he struggled a little bit mentally in there. And it can happen, you know what I mean? And I think more than anything, it shows, it shows himself, right? He showed himself, but it also shows, the folks that are listening to this and the folks that are, possibly struggling some mental side of the sport, that you can flip it around fast. Right. The next 2 weekends later, Yanni's out there wrestling well and does a good job and wins the tournament. So, it can happen, right? As long as you understand that you have the skills, and you just need to make sure that you're doing your mental exercises as well. And making sure that you are a complete athlete, not just a physical athlete, right? You have to be a complete athlete to succeed. And it's cool to see, and it was great to see that he, got back to it and just, like we talked about before, got back to his attacking ways, right? When he's attacking, he's hard to beat.
Yeah, no, for sure. He's a monster. Yeah. And it's one of the things I'm so, happy of. One, I love wrestling, obviously, as you do. We both work in the wrestling world. One of the cool things about Mindset is, for so long, athletes didn't have, if your coach didn't necessarily know what to do, there wasn't a lot of people you could go to for that mental training. And it's one of the exciting things that we can offer with stuff like this, or with, our coaching program, whether it's with teams or individuals, is, proven ways to improve. It's just like technique. Good technique is good technique. you know, there's proper mindset training that you can do that's going to help you grow your confidence, deal with pressure, deal with nerves. Well, Coach, I appreciate you coming on. I wish you guys the best. Obviously, I'm cheering for Penn when we duel, but
yes, I understand that.
I want to see all the Ivies do well. You know, it's great to see people that are scholars, you know, in the classroom and athletes on the mat. Do you got any closing messages for the audience before we finish up?
No, I think the big thing is I love this, you know, wrestling mindset, because I wouldn't say that. I would say there used to be like a stigma, right? You know, if you were talking or you're trying to address the mental side, that you were mentally weak, right? And I don't think that's true at all. I think that we've shown that some of the best guys in the world have, you know, sports psychologists, and they lean on them, and they really help them get to, you know, where they're going to be, whether they call them performance coaches, whatever it is, right? So I'm happy that that stigma's gone away, and I think that you know, you guys are doing a wonderful job giving people resources. And once again, I think, you know, Yanni's situation at trials and then Poland is a great example of what can be done when you're, and more than anything, I think you can see results, right? Maybe how much better can you be when you're off and when you're on, right? So that should be encouragement to folks to go ahead and really seek the mental side of it, right? The mental training, because, you know, you could be a lot better if you have your mind right going into battle, and you can really do some special things. So it's cool to see, and it definitely matters. And I'm happy that you guys are doing such a great job, and you're putting on these seminars. This is wonderful. So,
all right. Well, I couldn't have said it better myself. Appreciate your time, Coach, and good luck next season.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Yeah. Have a good one.
All right. You as well.